In this lesson, I'm going to be showing you how to expand on the classic power chord shape that everybody knows and kind of modify it a little bit so we can come up with more interesting sounding rhythm and lead guitar phrases. So what we're going to start with is our D power chord. So we're going to be playing on the A string as our root on that 5th fret. And so what the basic idea is that we're going to be lowering or raising the top 2 notes in that chord. So we're going to be doing the stuff on the D string and G string of this voicing. And we'll be raising it and lowering it to come up with little melodies that we can play. Something like this. So the first example we're going to look at, we're going to be focusing on just the high G string. So we're going to be lowering the note from the 7th fret to the 5th fret. So basically all we're doing is just lifting up our pinky on that note and then putting it back on when we want to go back to the normal chord. So let's take a look at the first example along with the backing track. It'll show you a few ways I would use this to play over a straight rock groove. So technique-wise, in this example and the ones that follow, I use my pick to play the root note on the A string, while using my middle and ring fingers to hybrid pick the notes on the D and G strings. This allows me to play with a bit more control when playing intricate rhythms between the upper notes and the root note. It also lets me strike double stops at the same time instead of having to strum through them where the notes ring only one at a time. So let's dig into this first example. I'm just moving back and forth between the power chord shape and our new top note lowered shape, using rhythm to create interest. So we're going to start this example with our new shape, with the pinky off, and we're just barring that 5th fret. And then we're just putting our pinky back to get the power chord. So right there with those faster 16th note lines, we're going to use pull-offs and hammer-ons to play them quickly, easily, and smoothly. So as you can see, the technique required for this is almost non-existent. All we're doing is just moving. We're taking that power chord shape, and then we're lifting that pinky up. So in the backing track, you can hear that the bass is keeping that steady 8th note pulse constantly, driving the song along with the drums, right? So it's... so it isn't 100% necessary for us to do the same thing on the guitar, right? So we don't need to be chugging along with them. We can actually play a little bit more sparse, which gives us a little bit more open sound to the whole rhythm section. So the next example we're going to look at is doing the exact same thing, but on the D string. So this time we're going to be lowering that D string from the 7th fret to the 5th fret. So again, all we're going to have to do here is lift up our ring finger. So let's check out the example now. So this one is very similar to the first example, except the only thing we're doing is instead of lifting our pinky, we're going to be lifting our ring finger. So let's walk through this one. So we're going to start with our power chord once again, and lift our ring finger. Right, we still have our index finger here barring that 5th fret. Another one where we're doing 16th notes and using that hammer-on to play it quickly. Lift off. And then another quick one. The third example in the lesson will combine the first two moves in one. So with this, we'll be lowering both the D and G strings down a whole step from the 7th fret to the 5th fret. So again, this time we're just going to be lifting off both our ring and pinky fingers to the bar on that 5th fret. So let's listen to the example. So as you can hear, it's the same basic idea as the first two examples, just doing both at the same time. So we're going to be lifting both our ring finger and pinky off. So let's look at the example. We're going to start with everything lifted, and then we play the actual power chord shape one more time. And then in this second bar, we're going to add another note. We're going to add a flat 5, a blues note here. And again, we're taking advantage of using hammer-ons and pull-offs to make these 16ths much easier and smoother sounding. And then we're right back to our main riff. So all together, this one sounds like this. The last example adds notes higher than our power chord shape. So with this, we're going to be moving the notes on the D and G strings up a minor third, so from the 7th fret to the 10th fret. And it'll sound something like this. As you can hear, very ZZ Top influenced on this one. So let's take a look at the example in the backing track. So with this one, you can see we're not using the low root note, and instead we're just focusing on the D and G strings. Because of this, I'll use a bit of pick for the single notes along the D string, instead of always using my middle finger. For the double stops, I'll be sticking with using both middle and ring to hybrid pick them. So let's check it out. We're gonna start. This time we're barring the 7th fret with our index finger, because we're gonna go above. Right there, we use our pinky on the G string to hit that note on the 10th fret. Then our pick. So as you can see, any of those single notes on the D string on this one, I'm going to be picking. And any of those double stops, I'm still going to be doing it as a hybrid pick, so I can hit them both at the same time. If you wanted to keep the low end root that the other examples have had, you can play around with using the D note on the 10th fret of the 6th string to kind of get a similar sound as everything else we've been doing. So that's it for the examples. You've now got 4 different sounds you can play around with to come up with interesting sounding power chord guitar parts. And you can use these in rock music, blues music, country music, as well as it's really easy to move them around on one string or even to different string sets. So above me, you can see the red power chord shape we started with, as well as all of our main option notes we can play with. Obviously, we can move this shape along the A string to get different chords, right? So moving it up a whole step will get us E. If we move it down to the 2nd fret, we get B. And we can even use open strings with A. But we can also move this shape to the low E string root, where along the 5th fret it would be playing over A. We can also take it up to the higher strings with the root along the D string. So in this case, we'll be playing over G. Take note of how the fingerings change a bit when we are up on these high strings. The notes on the B string are all shifted up 1 fret from normal because of how the standard tuning goes from fourths to the major third between the G and B string. Even putting a power chord with the root on the G string is still workable with this idea. So you can see up here we're playing over C because the C note on the 5th fret of the G string is our root. And you can hear that's still just as workable as those low ones. And again, this can be moved all around the frets. So now try coming up with phrases on your own, starting with our power chord shape, and then combining it with our 4 different voicing options. That's it for this lesson, and thanks again for watching.